Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our discussion of empiricism. And today we'll take a look at indirect realism. This is John Locke's approach to empiricism that tries to defend it against all of these issues we looked at pertaining to perception and problems with perception. So remember, empiricism is a way to justify what you know. This is the approach that says you can justify what you know because you experienced it, because you saw it, you heard it, you tasted it, you smelled it, right? It's knowing something through your senses. So the world is here that we sense, and then once we sense it, it goes to our minds, and then we say we know it. So it's the experience of the world that gives us knowledge. Last lecture, we looked at the fact that there are problems with empiricism, especially when we take a look at how often we're deceived by our senses, how often we're wrong based upon what we hear or see. We took a look at the example of a pencil and a glass of water, and though our senses tell us, right, our sight tells us that the pencil is fractured somehow, we know it's not. If we were to take out the pencil, it's not fractured. We sometimes mishear something, or we could be a home alone by ourselves, and we hear a creak and we think there's an intruder in the house, or maybe it's dark and we see something and believe it's a certain color when it's not. When you're a kid, I'm sure you might have thought there were things under your bed based upon how the room moved that weren't really there. Or maybe you've just had discussions with people and you've had disagreements because you thought somebody said one thing and they thought you said something else, and you each believe what you heard, right? How often does that happen? Where we think we heard something one way and somebody says that's not the way I said it, and we get into big arguments about it. So we know that our senses can deceive us. For many empiricists, they'll say, well, this is only a problem if you believe in naive realism. This is only a problem if you believe that what you sense is what you get, right? That the sense data you receive is how the world is. But for a philosopher like John Locke, he's going to say, no, 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 empiricism, you can't think of it that way. What you see isn't always what you get, but you can still justify what you know through your senses. So, John Locke is an English philosopher, 16th century. And though we'll talk about him today with regards to epistemology, he is very influential in lots of other philosophical fields, including social political philosophy. And a lot of what we associate with American values and how we think our founding fathers had intended the country to be run, a lot of it stems from Locke's philosophies. With regards to epistemology, Locke is famous for this term tabula rasa. So he compared the mind to a blank slate. And when you come into the world, are born into the world, your mind is blank, no ideas, there's nothing that you know coming into the world. And it's only through experience that you gain knowledge. It's only as you start to live in the world and experience the world and experience it that you are filling that blank slate with information. Sort of how we're doing right now on the screen for you, right? Now, how does John Locke get around this problem of perception? How can you still be an empiricist despite the fact that your perceptions can deceive you? Think back to Descartes and his dream argument, right? The idea that how can we trust our perceptions if we know our perceptions deceive us, in particular when we're dreaming? Well, Locke's going to say instead of naive realism, what we are as empiricists are indirect realists. And he's going to say when you experience the properties of an object, when you experience the qualities of an object, there are really two types you are experiencing. One, there are primary qualities of an object. Primary qualities, says Locke, are qualities that are of the object itself. right? They're qualities of the thing that you are experiencing. As examples of primary qualities, Locke says, well, when you see objects, the shape of it is a primary quality of the object. The solidity of it is a primary quality of the object. The extension of it, so if you were to measure the extension of it, that's a primary quality of the object. Whether it's moving or at rest, that's a primary quality of the object. How many there are? Primary quality of the object. And he's going to distinguish primary quality from sensible or secondary properties. Instead of these as being properties of the objects themselves, sensible properties are the effect that the object has on us. They're not in the object, they're the effect of it on us. They do not really exist in the object itself. So, examples he provides of sensible properties are things like the taste of it, the color of it, the sound of it, the odor of it, the feeling of it when you touch it, if it's rough or smooth. He says those are all, things you experience, but those are sensible properties. Those are how the objects affect us, and those aren't necessarily in the objects themselves. So if you have a glass with a liquid in it, right? We can take a look and say, hey, look, there's one glass here. Put it on the table. We could say, hey, look, it's not moving. It's on the table. Take some measuring tape, take out the height. Look, it's like 5 inches tall. Those are all properties of the objects themselves. Those are primary qualities. But if we were to take a look and ask what the color is, I might say red, the other person might say purple, because that's not a primary property of the object. That's the effect the object's having on us. And the effect it has on me might be different than the effect it has on my neighbor. But the thing that's in the object that's causing us to see a certain color, well, that thing is there, right? That's a primary quality of the object. But how we experience it, that's a secondary property of the object. So when we get into arguments with other people because they said one thing, we thought they said another thing, I mean, that's how we hear it. That's a sensible property. If we take a look at different cars and we said, no, 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 I wanted the gray one. Why'd you get the light blue one? Right? That disagreement isn't because the grayness or the purpleness is within the car. The grayness or the blueness is within the car. That's because there's a property of the car that's causing an effect on each of us differently because we're different people. So all of the problems of perception, says Locke, are because of sensible properties, because of secondary properties. But we can still know about reality through the senses. The senses are still the primary way of knowing about reality, as long as we remember its primary qualities that we can know about, right? Its primary qualities that we can objectively say is true of reality. Look, there are two cars in my driveway. We might disagree on the color because those are sensible properties, but we can agree on the primary qualities that there are two of them. Look, they're in the garage, they're not moving. We can agree on that, right? Because that's a primary quality of the object. We may not agree on the odor of the cars. If we both smell the cars, somebody might go, that smells really good. And I'll go, what? That's like burnt fuel. That smells horrible. Those are sensible properties. So any sort of deception, illusion, disagreement, right? Subjective experience, the difference is going to come from the effect a property has on us. It's going to come from those sensible properties. But as empiricists, say Locke, we can still know about the world. We can know the primary qualities of it. Just take a measuring tape, measure it. We'll both agree. Look, see, look, measuring tape. We do a test. Put it on a scale. Look, 100 pounds. That's what I weigh. Right? So this is very similar. Oh, let's use an example here. So we take a look at a flower And that experience goes into our mind. That's how we know of reality. We know of reality based upon our experience. But what we can know about reality are the primary qualities of reality, the primary qualities of what we're looking at. We can know, for instance, whether the flower is being thrown in the air or being still. We can get some measuring tape and measure the height of the flower. We can say, look, there's one flower sticking out from the ground right now. Those are all primary qualities, and we know that through experience. If we ask things like the odor of it, the color of it, the taste, if we were to eat it, those would be sensible properties, right? Properties we know because that's the effect the thing has on us. And in that case, we won't really, that's not something you can know of reality because that's not in reality. That's in us. That's the effect that the object has on us. So hopefully you see how Locke is trying to deal with the problem of perception. He's saying the problem is only there if we focus on sensible properties. But we can still justify knowing about reality. We can still justifying our beliefs through experience as long as we remember that what we can justify are primary qualities of reality, right? Okay. This is similar to what's referred to as scientific realism. So science can't really measure color, right? Because color is how something is experienced by people. What we can do is we can measure a wavelength, right? So if light is hitting my shirt right now, the light is going to bounce off of my shirt and into your eye. Well, that light, we can measure the electromagnetic wavelength of it, right? We can measure that. But what color it is in terms of what you are seeing, that's the effect it has on you, right? We can know the wavelength of the light reflected off the shirt, but I can't know the color you're seeing because that's how the light is impacting you. That's how the light reflected off my shirt is affecting you. So science can't measure the taste of food, right? Somebody might say, hey, this is too salty. I might say it's not salty enough. That is a difference of sensible properties. But there is a primary quality that's causing those sensible properties, and that's the chemical composition of the food. So we can put the food under a microscope and check out the chemical composition of it. That is what is causing the property, the sensible property within you that says, ooh, sour. And your buddy says, sour, that's sweet, right? There'd be a disagreement there on those sensible properties, but we can measure the chemical composition, and that gives us the primary qualities of the object, right? The primary qualities of the food. We can say to somebody, "Hey, that's too loud," and they say that's too soft, or somebody can go, that's like really obnoxious music," and the other person goes, "Well, I think that's really peaceful." We can't necessarily measure that, but we can take a look at the amplitude waves and the frequency composition of the music, right? That we can know. Those primary qualities we can know. And those are what is causing us, or that's what's causing an effect within us where we go, oh, too loud, oh, too soft. Oh, that's too noisy. The other person goes, oh, that's too peaceful. Well, the reason for that is the primary qualities of the music, right? Which we can see by analyzing the wavelengths or the wave composition of the music. So all of these things you can know about reality. You can know about the wavelength of the light reflecting off my shirt. You can know the chemical composition of the food. You can know the frequency composition of a piece of music, right? Those primary qualities you can know through experience. You know through tests. You know through, through your senses, through a lab. This is empiricism. And yes, it is true, says Locke, that we can be fooled every once in a while. But it doesn't mean we throw away empiricism. We just realize that there are certain properties that are not in the objects in reality. Certain properties like color or taste or sound, that's not a property of the object in reality. We can know of reality, right? So let's summarize this with a couple bullets here. Our experience of sensible qualities are our own internal ideas, right, that are caused by the external world. So you're sitting at home at night and you hear stuff. I mean, what you hear, your interpretation of that, sensible property. But there is something that's causing that sound that we would call a primary quality that's causing the effect in you that says there must be an intruder in the house. You take a look at the pencil in the water, sensible quality is that it looks fractured to you when you put it in the glass of water, right? But there is a pencil that you can measure, that you can feel, right? Then those would be primary qualities. You can take a look at the chemical composition of the water of the pencil. You can take a look at how wavelengths or how waves move in and out of water, and that will tell you primary qualities of the water and the pencil, right? And it's those primary qualities that are causing an effect in you that we call sensible qualities. And that's where you go, that looks fractured to me. But you notice how empiricism is still giving us knowledge of the world. Okay. And as we mentioned, that knowledge is of primary qualities. We can know of the world based upon the primary qualities that we experience. How many there are something, the extension of something, whether something's in motion or not. And if we take a look at scientific realism, we can and we can say things that we can measure might be considered primary qualities. Take a ruler, 6 inches, 6 inches, right? If the ball is moving down from one end of the hill down to the base of the hill, well, the ball's moving. You can see it move. Those are primary qualities that you can experience of the world. You can know of the world. So what do you think? Does this solve the problem of perception or the issue of perception for empiricists? Is this a way of looking at empiricism that allows you to feel as if empiricism is the correct approach to knowing something? I know it because I've experienced it. Right? How would you know that dinosaurs lived on the earth a long time ago? Well, what if you were around then and you saw them? Would you know then? Does this explanation for empiricism give you enough reason to say, yeah, I would know if they were around if I saw them? Does this work for you? Well, there is a problem here that you're going to look at in our next lecture. And it's a problem based upon a philosophy we've already looked at in class. Can you think of what that might be? We're going to take a look at problems from idealism and induction when we come back in our next lecture.